Welcome back to episode 15 of Chambers Chatter. I'm Laura Chambers-Babelis.
And I'm Shay Chambers-Helms. Today we're super excited to introduce Edie Rodgers to the show, who's most well known for her civic public service and historic preservation. All right, Edie, welcome back to round two. Thank you.
It's okay.
We'll kind of start at the beginning. I know you were not born and raised in Beaufort, so what brought you to Beaufort?
I married a Beaufortonian.
Okay.
And so he retired from the Army in '68. And by that time, we had 3 small children. And we never considered any other place but Beaufort to retire. You know, a lot of people are wondering, where are we going to retire? No, we knew exactly where we were going to retire. And we did that in June or July of '68. Got the children in school, and we're busy building the building for a real estate development. And because he had these great plans to develop a golf course community, because so many of his military friends were retiring who had been in World War II or Vietnam or whatever. At this point, they're thinking retirement. And so many of them are golfers. And he was a golfer. And so he had this great plan. He had worked on this. And you know, I always said he was the brains and I was the brawn, because I just tried to keep the office going when we did. We actually opened the office in February of '69.
Okay.
And we're off and running and developing on Ladies Island, Royal Pines Country Club, Estates, which was a lot of, I've forgotten how many home sites.
It's a lot.
And the club with the 18-hole golf course and, you know, pool, tennis, the normal things that go with a club. We also developed the Marina that's on the river there, Marsh Harbor. Marsh Harbor condominiums, the first phase only. We sold the rest and someone else did that. What else did we do? The Marina, the condos, the club. That was enough, wasn't it?
That was a lot.
Yeah,
that was a lot. Royal
with 3
Pines is a
small
big
children,
community.
I will tell you, it was an interesting go time of life.
Absolutely. And so 68, 69 is kind of when all this is beginning.
We actually opened the club with a black tie party in April of '72.
Oh, wow.
Pretty quick then.
The clubhouse. And in fact, I had a whole group of these pictures put together and framed for each of my children, and your grandfather is in one of the pictures.
Oh, really?
Oh, that's so special.
Oh, that's so fun. And is that the current clubhouse today?
It is.
Okay.
Basically the same in size and exterior appearance, but it has been totally renovated inside. Well, after all, we're talking more than 50 years.
Right, of course.
So the recent, within the last 10 years, I guess, give or take, redid the entire inside. So, and in the meantime, we did buy land. We bought the old Ladies Island Country Club that was a 9-hole golf course. Bought land from Beaufortonians, these guys had all grown up together, you know, and made another 18-hole golf course. So we had 2 18-hole golf courses. We sold all interest in all of it in '78.
Okay.
So
That was a quick, but very successful stint.
well, building it was more fun than trying to operate it.
I can imagine.
And I always said, you know, you don't have a military background, so you may not understand this, but I always said he retired as a lieutenant colonel, and the members who came here, and by word of mouth, pretty much girls, this was what was amazing about our development. We had, I don't know, 15, 17 or something generals at one time.
Wow.
They bought property. Many of them built and lived at Royal Pines Country Club Estates, which is off Samsport Road. Many of them bought other waterfront properties and built there. They were all wonderful additions to our community. They were accustomed to doing things. The men and their wives were very much involved in this community and welcome to this community.
And I still find it so amazing today how many military retire here.
Yeah.
It's so
Yeah.
great.
It's a special place to retire, so it makes sense.
And since that was so long ago, most of those people are gone. I'm one of the few still hanging around.
Aw.
But you had asked me how I got interested in politics.
Yes, that's what your next question.
Yeah. After we sold our interest in Royal Pines, we decided we should maybe go away and let the new owners, let all the members get used to new owners instead of bringing their problems to us. And at the same time, the Beaufort Academy was on the verge of not opening again. And that's a long story. We won't go into that. But
I didn't know they had that time,
I put
though.
my children in school in Charleston and bought a house in Charleston. And my husband continued to stay here during the week. And either we came back here on the weekend or he came to Charleston for a while before we were able to sell it. But at any rate, we then came back to Beaufort. We bought Secession House, one of the historic homes, as you well know, in 81, early 81, and started redoing and moved in there. Now, I get all done and I'm sitting on the porch every morning, which was so pleasant, really, early in the morning, sitting on the porch with the Beaufort Gazette and a cup of coffee. And one morning, I'm reading the newspaper. City Council had met the night before, and amazing grace, the article was printed in the paper that they had discussed the possibility of filling in part of the marsh area, which is the little Secession Park that's there now, was allowed me a terrific view. Half of it at one time belonged to Secession House. Yeah. We gave it to the city, in fact, at one point.
Oh.
Anyway, I had this wonderful view, and I thought, I don't want a parking lot out in front of the house. But I did realize that's what happens if you don't pay attention to what's going on. And I'm talking local, state, and federal. It breaks my heart that people don't pay more attention to what's going on with their government, because talking to each other, griping to each other about your government doesn't get any changes made. So at any rate, I decided I'd start going to council meetings. I did. I had to be an absolute thorn in your grandfather's side, because I would ask questions when they were having, and he would let me ask the questions and they would answer. Any rate, I started going down on Fridays and getting the agenda package and was well prepared for the meeting when I went. Bottom line, I went to meetings for 6 years before I ran for city council seat.
Wow.
And
well educated by that point.
and won. There were 4 candidates in that race, 2 seats. Two incumbents were running again, and I think Jean Grace and I were the other 2 candidates. Anyway, I won, and I started, and in fact, we went to the mountains for the summer. I wasn't supposed to be sworn in until sometime in the fall. They were having a budget crisis that year, and your grandfather had somebody call me and tell me to come back to Beaufort and be sworn in early, because we had to get busy on the budget.
Oh my gosh.
And it was known. We had another little newspaper, I forget the name of it now, at that time, and they named it The Budget from Hell. And so I came back and was sworn in early, and we started to work.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So that was a 4-year stint?
That was a 4-year stint.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
And what were you involved in those 4 years? You had mentioned that Henry.
How I was involved?
Yeah.
Well, your grandfather had a way of giving me assignments, I'm going to say. I represented the city, actually, when we got the county to take over what was the Green Street Gym. Will always be the Green Street Gym to me. Has another name now. So I represented the city there. I represented the city starting the Friends of the Museum, which your grandfather had arranged that the city was going to take it over from the private individuals who owned it. He assigned me to represent the city on the Lowcountry Council of Governments. Just all these fun things.
Yeah.
And learning experiences, absolutely. Learning experience. If things are not a learning experience, you're wasting your time.
Very well said.
Yeah.
And then I had a heart attack in the middle of this. In 91, I had a heart attack. And so I made a decision not to run again. And in fact, sold and moved out of Secession House in January of 94. And actually moved out of the city. But I missed living in the city. So I eventually came back to the city.
Interesting. Okay. But that wasn't the end of your political career.
Oh, no.
Okay.
New beginning.
Yeah, it was kind of the beginning because I was involved in the Republican Party. And I was so busy writing letters to the editor about various things that were going on in the community, sharing my opinion for what it's worth. And sometimes it helped, sometimes it didn't make a bit of difference. But sharing, I think, is very important.
Yeah.
That people speak up and let you know what they think about various things. But I guess I fast forward to 94.
Okay.
I went to England to the Chelsea Flower Show. Incidentally, we toured the day after Queen Elizabeth had toured. She gets her own private tour of the Chelsea Flower Show. And this was a garden club group that went to England for
How cool.
that show. It was a wonderful tour. But I came back to find my answering machine full of messages from the governor's office. And the governor himself had called a few times too. And so when I called him back, I learned he wanted me to run for the District 124 seat for the South Carolina House because the redistricting had taken place, and he thought it should be a Republican seat. Well, Billy Kaiserlin had replaced his mother and had been there for 2 years at that point. She had been there 16 years. He had been there 2 years. And with the new lines, they wanted me to run, and they felt it would be a Republican seat at that point. Well, you're running against a machine when you run against a Kaiserling. And so I did not win, and it was okay, but we had a lot of fun. We learned a great deal during that campaign. But then I had resigned. I was serving on the HBF board and some other boards around, and I had resigned from everything because I had to concentrate on doing this campaign. And so then I thought, well, now what am I going to do? I've resigned all these things. And so my daughter had always said, she had worked for Macintosh at the bookstore while she was getting her master's, and she had always said, I love the bookstore. And she was a reader from the get-go. Anyway, I went to Cindy and I said, you still want to open a bookstore? Let's do it.
Wow.
So we did. Ladies Island Bookstore near what is now Graco was Winn-Dixie grocery store at the time. So it was in that complex. And so then Billy Kaiserling decides not to run again in 96. And I said, well, I think we should just see if we can't take this seat now.
Yeah.
So I announced that I was running, and we did take the seat.
Wow.
And that was just for 6 years. I served 3 terms. But the Democratic Party never let me run unopposed. I actually ended up having had 6 political campaigns in 6 years.
Wow.
Oh my
One
gosh.
of those was a primary. When I first ran against Billy, someone that we'd never seen in the Republican Party, incidentally, declared and ran in that, and I whopped him. And I'm sure it was because people were more familiar with my name
Right.
because of my letters to the editor through the years, which I was.
We want to take a quick break to thank our sponsor, Watkins Mechanical.
Hey y'all, it's Josh with Watkins Mechanical. Warm weather is finally here and your system is working hard to keep you cool. Here are 3 quick tips to help. 1. Replace your air filters monthly. Restrictions cause your system to work harder and reduce your air quality. 2. Keep your outdoor unit clean. Remove any leaves, debris, or dirt for proper airflow. 3. Set your thermostat at a constant temperature. Programmable thermostats improve efficiency and help save you money. For quality service and lasting results, call Watkins Mechanical, trusted in the Lowcountry for over 25 years. Brian, whatever it takes.
So
Free
were you writing letters just locally, or were you writing letters to the state as well?
No,
Okay.
just Beaufort.
Okay.
I was dealing strictly with Beaufort problems or plans or whatever.
Okay.
Sharing my opinion. I like to call it sharing my opinion. Others may call it something different. At any rate, ran one, but they never let me run. And only one of those times. One was a special election because they had had a lawsuit and then declared it, so we had to run it all over again. But otherwise, I have got records from every one of those campaigns. And that just, I mean, you may be an energetic bunny or whatever that thing is on TV, but you can get worn out in a hurry trying to do this job and having to run a campaign and do that every year. But we did. I had a lot of volunteers. I'm going to tell you, a lot of people in this community helped me. I don't think I would have ever done it without them. Yeah. So 6 years I was
amazing.
there. And then I just decided, enough of this. My mother was not well. Things were going on in my life, and I just decided and I made a lot of friends there. It's wonderful, but you're one vote out of 124 in the House, and it's so different from being a member of a body of 5 on a city council, where you really feel you can influence things to a degree and help the people who live in your community.
That makes sense.
And I really felt constituent service was probably the most important part of what I did, because it's frustrating that the citizens who pay the taxes have a problem and they call Columbia and they get shuttled from one to another, and then they call their representative, and their representative calls that department, and suddenly it happens. That should not be the way government works, in my humble opinion. Mm-hmm. But that's reality. So that was my last, and I haven't been enough. I left 2002, November 2002. So we're talking almost 23 years since I was in office.
Wow.
And I still can't stay away from government meetings. You know, I did go to city council meetings just regularly, but I've sort of eased off of that now that I am so old. I don't do that as often, but I feel guilty about it. I mean, it is too bad. You go to one of the city council meetings, we used to have the room full. In the old days when I was there with your grandfather, we had every department head in the room when we had a council meeting, so that if someone was there with a question, that department head could answer that for them.
Wow.
And we had people there, you know, especially if you were considering raising the rate for an hour on a meter downtown for parking from 5 cents to 10 cents. I'm really sort of laughing at this now. I thought they were going to tar and feather us. The merchants came in with blood in their eyes to the meeting.
Believe it.
Because we proposed, I mean, the city had things to do. We needed the money. And merchants and their employees were guilty of feeding a meter, which cheated their customers out of a place to park. But that was one of those times when the room was standing room only. You only get that now when you really got an important issue that upsets people. They're staying at home in their pajamas and watching it on whatever they watch it
Yeah.
on.
Yeah, yeah,
zooming
all
in.
virtual. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you don't get a big turnout at city council meetings anymore, and it's a shame.
That is a shame.
It
Yeah.
is.
And I now feel like I need to go to the
I
next
know.
one.
I feel guilty.
I hope I've shamed you into going to your council meeting. Well, but county council is equally important, and I'm guilty of not going to theirs as often as I should. But otherwise, that was sort of the end of my political career. I'm probably just known as the troublemaker now.
No. So tell us about, I've heard some highlights of some special guests that you hosted.
Oh, yes, I skipped right over that. And in fact, we hosted Vice President George Herbert Walker Bush at Secession House to hold a press conference. He was trying to become the Republican candidate, and there were a lot of people in the primary. And he was speaking in the Henry Chambers Park and to the public in general, and they had asked us to host him to hold the press conference in the House.
And this is back when you're at Secession House.
At Secession House,
Okay.
yes. And this was 1988
Okay.
when he did this. And in fact, after he left, I went in because he had sat at the head of the table with his back to the fireplace, and I knew where he sat. So I went in and got a Sharpie and put an X under the table because I already knew I was going to have a brass plaque made to put on the table, and it's really just about this big. It's not a big plaque, stating that he had held the press conference in the House. And the fun part about that is that I truly put it in the drawer after I got it made at Buff's here in town. And it was almost 3 years before I got up the nerve to put the screws in the table and put the plaque on the table. But it's still there, and I hope will always remain there.
Oh, absolutely.
But after he had held the press conference, I told him that we had a lot of history in the basement, and knowing that he was from his family and Mrs. Bush's family were from the Massachusetts, Maine area of the Northeast, I thought he would find it interesting. I would like to show him, but I really had my golf pencil ready for him to write his name on the basement wall, because that wall is a treasure trove of men who served in the Union Army. Obviously were waiting in line to be paid because the paymaster department was there, and they wrote on the walls in the front hall and the back hall. So that's why I know there was a long line, and they were obviously paying them in one of the back rooms there. Their names, their hometowns, their regiments, dates. It's just a treasure trove. But on one special wall on the other side of the hall, there was a caricature of Abraham Lincoln. Anybody who's ever seen a picture of Abraham Lincoln will recognize immediately who it is.
Absolutely, yeah.
And a couple of the officers in the Union Army had signed that wall. So I made the decision to make that my political wall, because while I was on city council, I was hosting there the city's reception for the former commodores of the Water Festival and all the state officers. Your grandfather was pretty shrewd. He invited all of the state officers to come and ride in the parade. And then when he needed something, he had a friend, and he could get some help. But at any rate, we were holding that, the city was holding it previously at the Best Western Motel, and I just thought it would be nice to have it at a home. We actually did it in the yard for the most part, but then I got the idea to take these people, like the governor, the lieutenant governor, Nick Theodore, the Democrat lieutenant governor's name is on the wall, Carol Campbell, Strom Thurmond, lots of them there.
Oh, cool.
Actually, my name's on the wall now.
Yes, it should be.
But the people I've sold the house to asked me to put it there. I did not put it there of my own volition. And I decided, and I was representative at that point when she asked me to add my name to that wall. But at any rate, it was a fun time. My most cherished memory of the visit was after he had signed the wall and we went back up the steps. The press was giving him a hard time. Truly, he was getting nothing but unpleasant treatment. And so I said to him, Mr. Bush, and I was not sure how I should address him, Vice President Bush or what. I said, I am so sorry. The press is being so unkind and treating you so poorly. And I honestly think they just don't know how to deal with a gentleman. He turned around because I had escorted him in front of me. He turned around and said, that's exactly what my mother said. I thought it was hilarious that the Vice President of the United States had said to me, that's what my mother said.
So funny.
Amazing.
At the same time, he gave me the disc, and it's not called a disc, a seal of the Vice President, which has his signature on the back of it and the seal of the Vice President on the front. And I had Nancy Rhett frame it with glass on both sides so that you can see both. And it hangs with my pictures of his visit. I have a display of pictures. You're all invited to come and see those if you'd like.
that.
That was so
Yeah,
special.
wherever I live, I put that. I sold Secession and moved out in January of '94. So wherever I've lived since then, I have those pictures on display.
That's a special thing to keep on display.
Yes.
So, Edie, as we wrap up, I mean, you clearly have a very strong a desire to help the community. Is there anything that you would suggest that would help people our age and even younger to continue to serving in the political aspect or continuing to go to city council meetings? What impact would you like to leave?
Indeed. You're the ones that we've got to hand it over to. Pay attention. That's kind of so many people I discovered serving in the State House, actually. They pay no attention to what's happening at any level of government until it affects their toes. So once you stepped on their toes, the squealing gets kind of loud. Well, sometimes you have to squeal before somebody steps on your toes, before a wrongdoing is happening or has happened. But pay attention, participate as you can. Find your niche. There are all sorts of things out there available that you can get involved in the community. And once you do, you see, gosh, we have a lot going on, and they all need volunteers.
That is
all
so
these
true.
Organizations need volunteers. So you can get a whole list of them, probably at the Chamber of Commerce. I'm not sure where you'll get that list. And go through and decide what you'd like to be involved with. And you be the next serving on that board or this board. Orchestra Guild, I'm sure, still has a board. The HBF has a board. The Salvation Army. It just goes on and on.
Yeah, there's so much to be involved in.
So do that, and we would welcome it. We want you young people to take over, you know. And once you've gotten involved, you can't let it go.
Edie, this was such a treat. Thank you for doing this with us. Round two.
It was my pleasure.
Yes, thank you so much. This was so good.